Jake, do not tell me. Please don't tell me. I don't want to know.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am back with another story time. This story time was highly requested. So before we begin the story time, if you can, well, I'm not being, listen. Before we begin the story time, I'm going to really need you to hit subscribe, to already like the video, and to let's get into it. Okay. So you want to know if my roommate was a serial killer? Short answer is allegedly. And then the long answer is this. Okay, so let's just get into it. Let's start off. So I'm going to name this particular roommate, because I have had many. If you watch my other story times, you already know. When I went to college, I stayed off campus, and I went through a variety of roommates, and it wasn't because people were moving out, it was because people were graduating. Okay, and I was always the youngest of the house, so yeah. So let's just get into it. So, boom. So this is what my house would look like at the time. I no longer live there. I'm not in college. I'm 25. So this was back in, like, I want to say 2017. I was living in North Philadelphia on Temple's campus, and I was staying in a duplex that was, like, all together it was 8 beds, but for my half of the duplex it was 4 beds, and on my side we had basically all guys and then me. So there was it was an Indian guy. We're gonna name him Jake. It was an Asian guy. We're gonna name him Andy. And then it was another guy who was black, and we're gonna call him, why is making names so hard? Because it always just seems so shady. But we're gonna call him Malcolm. Okay, so Andy was Asian, he was Korean, and Jake was Indian, and Malcolm was black and queer. And then it was me, black and young. So that is to set it up. So originally, well, not originally, but before Jake moved in, Jake is the murderer. Before Jake moved in, it was just me, Andy, and Malcolm. So me, Andy, and Malcolm, of course, we all got along, and we was building our own foundation of a college relationship. Malcolm wasn't in college. He was about 26, and he wasn't in college anymore. And Andy was also like 26 years old, and he was in college. I was about 21, and of course I was like a junior or a senior in college already. I think I was a senior because I graduated literally the day before or the day after I turned 22. Philly. Anyway, so boom. So keep in mind, it's me, Andy, and Malcolm. Next thing you know, I want to say we all three got to live together for a good month without any interruptions, meaning any new people. Then my landlord comes through. He brings by Jake. So Jake moves in. Jake comes out of nowhere. So the landlord's like, hey, just let you know, this guy named Jake is moving in, da 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 da. No other explanations, didn't know if he was a student, didn't know anything, because you didn't have to be a student to live in these houses. Okay, so Jake moves in. Jake is, me and the way the house is set up, so it's 3 floors. My floor was 2 bathrooms and 2 beds. So I had my own bathroom, my own bed, and then we had a living room down there, but we never put anything, we never entertained down there, we didn't hang out down there, nothing. Then before it was only just me in the bottom level with a basement, but it wasn't it was just me in the basement level. And then homeboy moves in, so it's him too. But mind you, we have our own rooms and bathrooms. So the only time we interact is honestly when we wanted to. And basically the dynamics of our household, we was very friendly. We was very open with one another. We wanted the friendships of like college and stuff like that. We were all kind of on the same page. We even did things like go to the movies and stuff together. So I keep forgetting his name, but Jake moved in, and Malcolm had his own level, and Andy had his own level, even though his level was the level that he shared with the living room and the kitchen, the main living room, the main kitchen, and the main entrance, and the main back door entrance. So I was the one who was closer to Jake, meaning in proximity, not in relationship. We were not close, but we were cordial to an extent. So before I even begin like really diving into the story, I do want to do a disclaimer that he has never told me himself that he was, of course, a murderer. He never even explained any of his crimes. Only thing he told me is what I'm about to tell you. But I want to tell you how I knew before he even hinted at what type time he was on. So if anybody knows me, you know I do tarot, you know I'm into the supernatural, I love a good conspiracy theory, I'm a natural investigator, I love a good mystery, and I think most people are crazy. Okay? And they probably think I'm crazy, and it's okay. So he moves in, Jake moves in, and we continue the dynamics where we're all friendly, we hang together, we talk, we have conversations, this, that, and the third. Jake was socially awkward. And by that, I mean, like, say if I love to joke and I love to play. So say if I'm off to the side and I'm talking to Andy or I'm talking to Malcolm and we laugh, Jake always got angry when we laughed. And I know that probably sounds crazy, like, oh no, it has to be more to the story. No, I'm literally telling you, if I'm like, say we in a group conversation and then I do an inside joke with one of the others, I could be like, and he'll be like, what's funny? And then I'll keep laughing because I'm like, what? And then he'll keep saying like, what's funny? No, I don't know what's funny. I don't like people laugh, and I don't know why they're laughing. Like, he was like so serious and so crazy all the time. So you couldn't joke around them and blase. So I don't want to make this video super long. So I just want to say, basically, that was one red flag. Another red flag was he always got these packages, and they would come in these. This is before Amazon was Amazoning it up. Before Amazon was as popular as it is today. He always got these packages every single day in the mail. I want to say, it might have not been every single day, but it was at least 5 times a week. They would come in this brown square, and I'm not nosy. See, I am nosy, but not like the toxic kind of nosy where I would go through your things or anything like that. I'm not gonna do that. I'ma just have my suspicions and be comfortable with my suspicions. I'm never even gonna ask. Keep that in mind. So he would get these square packages, and they would come in the mail. So, like I said, we lived in a duplex. Sometimes our mail would get put into the other part of the apartment's mailbox instead of ours, or the other apartment will pick up our mail, XYZ, and they'll return it later, or whatever the case may be. So he would get these packages. Every time he got these packages, he would start investigating immediately. Like if they said his package was delivered, or if he knew his package was supposed to, because I don't even know where the packages came from. I never seen like a carrier outside, and I was home a lot, so I never seen any of those things outside or anything like that. He was just, these packages will just appear on our doorstep. Also, I know it wasn't coming from like USPS, because they had the access to our mailbox. They will always be left like outside and like just in the middle of North Philly on our doorstep. And he will always go looking for his packages, and he'll be questioning everybody, and like in such a serious tone. Normal people be like, hey, you seen my package? He'll be like, hey, I had a package delivered here. I just want to know where it's at. Do you know where it's at? Have you seen it? When you came in, what did you see? Da 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 da. Did you see anybody drop? Like it was like always a FBI investigation for these packages. That to the point the packages was inconveniencing me, because I don't want to keep having to explain to myself I didn't touch your package. And I do feel like his packages went missing a few times. I don't even know what was in them still to this day. But whatever it was, he didn't want anyone to see it. He didn't want anyone to touch it. He didn't want, and even if you boarded in to be nice, and he'll be like, who boarded my package? Who did? Why does it matter, sir? What bomb, what cocaine are you harvesting in here? What is going on? Red flag number 2. So moving on to number 3. So we all go out one day. Mind you, I told you he don't like to laugh, but ironically enough, we went out to go see Kevin Hart, and we had to travel to Cherry Hill, New Jersey from North Philly in his car. Tell me why this man could not drive. I don't know who gave him his license, if he even had a license. His car was like a older truck. The back seats, he cut the seat belts. Who cuts their seat belts? Who cuts their seat belts? He cut the seat belts. And I'm going to tell you how we knew he cut the seat belts. Because at that time, I'm not even going to lie to you, I didn't even wear seat belts like that back in 2017. Now, every time I get in the car, I got a seat belt on. Because I don't play that. I'm not going to lie to you. So, we driving, he's speeding, he hard braking, he's doing all this crazy stuff that me and Malcolm keep flinging, like our bodies keep like, we had to keep catching ourselves, and we like, alright, we both look at each other, was like, let's put our seatbelts on because this can't drive. So we go like this, and these mother effers is cut. We looked at each other, because I had already, by that time, I was already spreading the rumor that he was a murderer. By that time, I looked at Malcolm, and Malcolm looked at me, and we just like, we screamed, but it wasn't like a loud scream. It was like, like we gonna die, because he's clearly taking us somewhere to kill us. He already trying to do it on his ride. He cut his back seat belts. Who cuts their seat belts? Red flag number 4. He was cutting up my bras, y'all. He was cutting up my bras. I'm going to tell you why he cut up my bras and why I know it was him. Andy is my friend and Malcolm was my friend. They wouldn't do that. Simple. He cut up my Victoria's Secret bras. And I have big tatas. So, you know them bras like $50, $60. I was so irked. I left I washed my clothes and I dried them. When I went to go get them out the dryer, and it's not like I had them waiting for days, and even if I did, gives you no right to cut my bras. When I picked them up out the dryer, all of my bras were cut up. The only new person was him, and he was already mad about his packages and about me laughing. So I knew I was on his hit list. So all the bras, and the way they were cut, like he cut, just like he cut his seatbelts, he cut the shoulders of all of the bras. And then when I confronted him about it, and it's basically an entire household, but I knew it was him. When I confronted him about it, and he was the one who was like, oh, maybe the dryer did it. So my bras wasn't cut when I took them out the washer. How did you know that it happened in the dryer? Secondly, why would the dryer cut the bras on the shoulders? Why would the dryers cut? That didn't even make sense. Then everyone knows, red flag number 5. Everyone knows I'm scared of bugs. When I say this man started putting these black spiders that I never even seen in my shoe boxes that sat in our common area, it was like 3 shoe boxes I had sitting outside my door, and every last one of them was a flipped upside down black spider. Now the spiders weren't like tarantulas, they were like that size, but still, I don't like bugs. And how, what, when, why would that? It just doesn't make sense. I don't know what he was, I honestly don't know what he was doing. Red flag number 6. I don't even know what number I'm on anymore. Red flag number 6. His name wasn't his name. So he would never tell us his real name. The name he told my landlord and the name he told us wasn't his name. And the only reason we figured this out, because one time when we did bring in one of his packages, it had his real name on it. And he was just like, that's one of the reasons he was freaking out. He didn't want us to know his name. So with all of these, and he was, like I said, he was weird. Like, he was weird. He was different. So, anyways, oh, and he always had these meetings he had to go to, and at 8 o'clock at night, and he would go twice a week or something like that. That's another red flag, because he was so mysterious. So you probably like, all right, Sharay, this don't mean he's a murderer. Okay. Now here is what he told me and Andy. So one day, I'm a very upfront person. I want to know who I'm living with. So one day, I'm chilling with Andy, and I'm like, Andy, your friend is a serial killer. And he like, Sharay, come on, he ain't a serial killer. I'm like, Andy, trust me, he's a psychopath. And then he like, Sharay, he's just weird, you know? And I'm like, Andy, let's go ask him. So he like, so we went and asked him, because, you know, we was bored, and there was nothing else to do. So Andy, we walk in there. Of course, I'm not going there by myself, because I'm sure I'm not even allowed in there. But he ain't going to turn me away if it's me and you. So me and Andy, we go to his room, knock on his door. And we're like Jake. Well, Andy is like, hey Jake, what you doing? You know, you start off small, you start into getting the juices flowing, a little small talk. And then we go into, I bring up the worst thing we ever did in life as a conversation topic. So I don't even know what I said. I probably said something dumb. I probably talked about my hitchhiking stories. Andy probably talked about, who knows, something boring. And then Jake was like, okay, if I tell you guys this, then you gotta promise you won't tell nobody. And we like, we won't. Look at me now. We're like, we won't tell nobody. 2020, a whole story time. So I'm like, yeah, we won't. I ain't gonna tell nobody. I'm like, nobody I know even know you. And then he like, right. I'm like, I don't even know you, because y'all don't even know your name, sir. You don't even go to temple, sir. Who are you, sir? Where did you come from? So he like, recently, he did something really bad, which is why he was living with us. He did something really bad. He was getting like nervous while he was telling the story. He was like, I'ma reenact it. He was like, okay guys, if I tell you what I did, you gotta promise you won't tell nobody. Like, this is serious, this is big time serious. Like, I'm so serious, like, you can't tell nobody what I did, you can't tell nobody. But the worst thing I ever done was recently, like, honestly, recently, I did something really, really, really bad, like, really bad, that I couldn't take back. Like, it was no taking back, and I swear, like, my life was over. Like, I was gonna go to jail for a long time. And he was like, I prayed, he joined the Masons. He was like, I prayed, I joined the Masons, and I would just pray and confide in my parents. And then all of a sudden, one day, I looked up, and it was over. He was like, I was gonna go to jail for a long time, and then I looked up, and they said everything's been cleared. Somebody got paid off. He was like, but I was gonna go to jail for a long time. So Andy trying to pry, because now Andy looking at me like, oh, you might have been right. So Andy like, well, what did you do? He was like, I can't tell you, because if I tell you, then I might have to kill you. No laughs, no smiles, no nothing. And I was like, he's a murderer. And then Andy was like, Sharay thinks you're a murderer. And then he was like, I can't tell you, because if I tell you, then I'm going to have to kill you. And he kept repeating it. And then I was like, Andy kept trying to get it out of him. And I was like, Jake, do not tell me. Please don't tell me. I don't want to know, because I don't want to die. Andy doesn't believe you, but I don't want to die. So don't say anything. Just keep it as what it is. You did something bad. It's gone. It's over now. So Andy then starts going into that people pleasing, like, oh, yeah, I'm sure it was not that bad. I'm sure it's just okay. You're okay now, right? And then he just was, like, so serious. The mood changed, and we left. And then shortly after that, I want to say within the next 2 weeks, this man who had to change his name, who had to move to a new location, and who was angry about these packages and cutting up bras and cutting up his seatbelts, he comes home one day and says, I'm getting married. And we're like, well, you don't even date. You never dated. Do you even know what vagina looks like? And he was like, no, I'm getting married. Basically, his parents married him off. The wedding was in, like, they had 1 week to, like, prepare for this wedding. He asked Andy to be the best man. He asked Malcolm to be in it, and you know he asked me to be in it. But whatever. So he asked them. They Malcolm ain't go, but Andy did. Andy was his best man in the wedding, and they didn't even know. It's crazy how you're someone's best man in a wedding and you don't even know their name. So anyway, they got married, and I want to say he never even came home after the wedding. It was just like, he told us that he was getting married, and it was over. So you tell me, this concludes the story. This is where it ends. I have had no other further contact with this person. I do know that he paid a year's worth of rent to only live with us for about 2 months. And he had paid a year's worth of rent. And it wasn't like our rent is so cheap. It was He paid his year's worth, and that was the end of it. And he left, and never to be seen or heard from again. Andy hasn't even seen or heard from him again. We don't know his name, guys, but he did something really, really bad that he couldn't take back, and he was going to jail for a very long time. He joined the Masons, and next thing you know, he's out of here. So I say this to say, if you're going to college, your roommate might be a killer. And this concludes this story time. So you tell me, what do you think he was? You think I'm tripping? Or you on the same boat as me? He might not be a serial killer yet, but he was weird, and he definitely, I mean, the only thing you can't really take back in life, and you're gonna go to jail for a really long time, and he ain't never had no vagina, is about murder. You tell me if something up. Maybe he cut somebody's fingers off. I don't know. He like cutting stuff. So, you tell me. But whatever you do, tell me in the comments. Like this video, and don't forget to subscribe.